My name is Naomi Bolton. I'm the town administrator for the town of Ware. I had offered to do the meet the candidates for the school board, and we had a great response. So what I'd like to do is, my intent is to keep it to 2 hours. We do have some pre-questions, but I'm actually going to turn it over to the town moderator, Eileen Meany. She did such a great job last night with candidates. So I'm going to kind of watch as the administrator, and I'm going to let Eileen take it from there like she did last night. And she can give you the ground rules. We'll try to make sure that we have everybody on. And I just asked that everybody keep their microphone. She'll say that too, so that we don't get any background music or background dogs or background kids or anything else. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. So as Naomi said, my name is Eileen Meany. I'm the town moderator for the town of Ware, and I want to welcome you to tonight's school board candidates night for 2021. It's pretty thrilling to look at this list of names and see that there are, it looks like about 10 candidates interested in 2 positions that are open for 3-year terms on our school board. Just to give you a little bit of background about how we're going to be proceeding tonight, we will start off with introductions. I'll allow each candidate 3 minutes to introduce themselves and their candidacy. From there, we will go through a series of questions that have been compiled through requests from questions from the community. And I will ask that question, and I will ask for answers of all the people who are running for office to respond. You'll have approximately 2 minutes for your response, and we will roll like that through the questions. I can tell you that there are some of a framework that I'd like to put into place because I think it's important. The questions asked by the public, excuse me, Naomi and I are going to ask if you could put them in through the chat feature, and I will ask the questions of the candidates to ensure that any question asked gets asked of all candidates, not just specific candidates, for fairness. Due to the format and the fact that, well, now this is my second time, but last night was my first time doing a candidates night in a virtual format, I'm going to ask for your patience because this is usually a fairly interesting thing to try to do. And I'm sure all the teachers in the room can relate to that. And the other thing I want to say is I am a huge fan of civility and respect. As a matter of fact, I absolutely demand it. And so I'd like the conversation tonight to be positive and solution focused. I'd like the conversation to be civil and respectful. And so if it's heading into an area where that's not happening, I'm probably going to step in. So I hope that we can have a spirited discourse on the questions at hand and really find out where our candidates fall in terms of their responses. So with that, I want to do a slight roll call just so that I know which candidates are in the room because there's a lot of people in here. So I'm going to call out a name, and if you could say present, I'd appreciate it. The first name is Danielle Uni.
Present.
Thank you. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize in advance. I'm terrible at pronunciation.
That was actually perfect.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sarah Button.
Present.
Thank you. Elizabeth Evans. Elizabeth Evans. Okay. Jessica Fuller.
Present.
Great. Thank you. Susan Morin. Susan Morin.
Eileen, she had sent me an email. She's not available this evening. Sorry.
Thank you. Daniel Recupero.
Present.
Thank you. Robert Shannon. Robert Shannon. Okay. Holly Shelley.
Present.
Thank you. Alyssa Small.
Present.
Thank you. And Allison Weldon.
Present. It's Weldon.
See, I knew I'd do one of them. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to go in that same order. So each candidate has 3 minutes to introduce yourself and your candidacy to this assembly. So Danielle, if you'd like to begin.
All right. My name is Danielle Uni. I have lived in Ware for over 12 years. I have 2 daughters in the school system. I have a 4th grader and a freshman. I went to college to be a teacher. I have worked in public schools. I also taught a class to adult learners in a career college. And I currently work for the Department of Education. And I work in a more fiscal avenue there. So I think between my background in education and my background in fiscal, I would make a good candidate. And my kids are at an age where I can get more involved in town, which is something I've wanted to do. So I'll keep it short and sweet, I think.
Thank you, Danielle. Sarah, you're up next. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sarah Button. I have lived in town for almost 4 years now, though I grew up in Manchester, and I've always been a big proponent for public education. I have been a teacher for 12 years at the middle school and high school and community college level. So I've sort of seen the progression. I have 2 little guys. One is currently in remote kindergarten and absolutely loving Mr. Ward. And the other is 2.5. So I think my big thing is just looking towards the future of the education in Ware and making sure that all of our kids grow up and have the best education that they can have and are proud of the town. We love it here. And I think there's a lot of great things to offer. And I think the school is doing wonderful things. And if we can just keep momentum going and have people in the school board that are that know what it takes to support teachers, that know what it takes to educate our kids and to really create a positive community, I think, that's my goal. I just want to do right by the students, the taxpayers, and the people of Ware that are happy to be here.
Thank you, Sarah. Jessica, you're up. You have the floor.
Thank you, Eileen. My name's Jessica Fuller. I have lived in Ware on and off for 17 years, except for the end of my high school career. I went to John Stark until I enlisted in the Army and moved out of state, where I graduated high school in Iowa. After finishing my Army career, I ended up moving back to Ware and renting until purchasing our home 4 years ago. I basically grew up in this town, so I have watched the progression of our education and digression of our budget. I feel that I'm very passionate about our children's education. I have 3 kiddos in our school system, 2 of which are special needs and in our current special education programs. I am very educated within that system and spend a lot of time with a lot of the administration within our school district working on IEPs and 504s. I feel that my time in the Army handling budgets and running a training facility could benefit the school board looking at the different budgets that need to be looked at and revised. And it's something I've been working on for a couple months now, is going through all of that. And this is something I'm very passionate about. I've been wanting to do this for years, and now I have the opportunity to do it. And here I am.
Thank you. So Daniel, you're next. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Recoup. My wife and I, we're both from New Hampshire. I grew up in Deering, grew up right around the corner in Deering, New Hampshire. Briefly moved to Florida for college, moved back to Ware in 2017. While I was in Florida for college, I studied music and technology education, taught there for 6 years. I taught middle school grades 6 through 8 in the robotics and engineering program there. I built from the ground up. My wife taught grades 4 through 5. She was a reading coach for elementary K through 5. we both worked until the day before we hit the road to travel back to New Hampshire. We were sad to leave the students and staff there. We moved back home to New Hampshire to be closer to our family again, to start our own family. We love the town of Ware, our neighborhood and home here. Between working, I had started a side business down there, and it flourished, and we were able to make our way back up to New Hampshire. And I've been running that business. It's been successful full-time since we moved back, but I still have a deep passion for education. I believe that I have a lot to offer the Ware community with my educational, business, and residential experience.
Thank you, Daniel. Next is Holly. Holly, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Holly Shelley. I have lived in Ware for the last 5 years. Previously, and where I grew up was in New Jersey, in a large suburb outside of Philadelphia. So I moved up here with my family to get away from a large population center, get away from all the congestion, and be able to raise my kids a little closer to nature and a little more of an experience that I would have wanted for myself as a kid. I do have I have 3 daughters, one 5 who has not started school yet. I have an 8-year-old who's in 2nd grade at Centerwoods, and I have a freshman at John Stark. So within my professional life, you know, I've mostly been doing a lot of working for the last 15 years really, but definitely the last 10 years I've built a career within managing stores, mostly wholesale. So I have experience in sales management, general management, so everything it takes to run a storefront. And I was able to move up to New Hampshire through work and had an opportunity to work in adult learning as well for a couple of years before going back into the store management side of things. And for the last year of my career, I spent doing specifically supply chain management. So every part of a budget, every part of profit and loss, every part of return on investment, making sure that the manufacturing facility that I worked in had all the things they need to run their product on a daily basis. That's what I've been responsible for. I do think that my professional experience makes me a good fit for the school board, as well as my working parent experience, bringing some balance to the board by having those types of experiences and being able to make some decisions that would help not only the taxpayers of Ware, the children of Ware, and also to just bring some balance to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Alyssa, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Small. I was raised in Manchester. After I graduated from high school, my parents moved to Ware. So my youngest sister graduated from John Stark. After my husband and I had our first child, we decided we'd also like to move to Ware to be part of a smaller community with more space and also to be close to my family. Now we have 2 children. They're ages 6 and 8. They're in 1st and 3rd grade at Centerwoods. And next year, our daughter will be going to the upper elementary school as well. I work as a paralegal. I've been at the same office for 19 years now. We cover a wide range of legal services such as estate planning, probate, business, litigation, intellectual property. I specialize in doing research and drafting legal documents such as contracts and motions that go to the courts. I've always been somebody who likes to help out, wants to volunteer. When the kids were in preschool, I spent 4 years volunteering at the preschool as a parent helper. I'd be in the classroom with them several times a month. And I really love that. I love getting to know the kids. I love getting to see what everybody was doing, the teachers, how everyone was learning, the different programs that they use there. So now that the kids are in Centerwoods together, I've had the opportunity to start substituting at the school. I've just started doing that this fall, which has been great because there is a need with the substitute shortage there. And now I get to see more of what's happening at the school. I get to see how hard the teachers are working. I get to see what the kids are doing and how excited they are. And it's really been a nice experience. So that has kind of opened my eyes to where we have a need for the community to reach out and really help, because the kids and the teachers could use some support right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Allison Weldon. I have lived in Ware for 7 years now. I live here because my husband and his family have always lived here. I have one son who just started kindergarten this year and is also loving Mr. Ward very much so every day. I professionally actually have an associate's degree in music from Keene State with a specialized in K through 12 education. It was a career that didn't really pan out for me, and I have been a Market Basket employee for the last 24 years, where I have 14 years of management experience. I have recently stepped down from that position to have more time with my son while he's still young, and am looking into transitioning into a career in real estate instead. Part of the reasons for that, I wanted more time to do more things, this being one of them, something I have been thinking about for a few years now, and decided that the time was finally right where I could actually commit more time and effort into it. Yeah, I think this, most importantly, that the teachers in this town and the school need more support than they seem to get sometimes. The budget is always a big hot button issue every year when it comes around. And I feel that in a lot of ways, you know, compromise needs to happen on both ends of the spectrum. I do feel that the teachers who didn't ask for hardly anything this year definitely put their compromise out there, and hopefully the town can do the same in return. They're all wonderful teachers, the handful of them that I do know. Personally, Mr. Ward is the only one I've had any professional experience with, and he's great. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Elizabeth Evans is here. She was having some technical difficulty in the beginning. So Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Hi there. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to even stand beside each of you in community, and also those of you that are stepping up to also run. I have grown up in New Hampshire, born and raised, Londonderry mostly, moved to Ware in 2017, and I'm catching my breath. I was running up and downstairs to get the headphones. So I have my master's in applied economics. I own an investment firm, spent 15 years in finance, working mostly with large brokerage firms. My kiddos are 5 and 4. You've seen them, I'm sure, bopping around. You know, my focus really is to really get back to community. And considering my studies in economics, it's really the study on how we utilize resources within economy. And the largest resource that we use is money, and that's a shared thing. And it's also something that causes some of the largest frictions in community and families and decision-making, and affects our children. And even the idea of making enough money to pay for food, for shelter, it's really easy for us to forget about those essential things when we have them. And when we're thinking about some of those extras, that we forget that even our teachers need those basic things to be able to provide safe spaces for our kids. And that if we as community members want to feel safe within myself as a parent, to know that my kids are safe in school and that we're looking out for each other, it's something that we have to trust that everyone in our community really has some of those basic things, and allows for us to really consider what are those things that our teachers need and our neighbors need to be able to live strong lives. And that it may be something that I may not have thought of, but if I have it and if my neighbor needs it, I'm always willing to give it. So my hope is that I can just apply what I've learned in my academic studies and what I've kind of gathered in my short tenure as a parent and my short tenure as a business owner, and just kind of my life experience as a human, just trying to be kind and be a resource. So that's all I have, and I'm grateful for this space, and I'm grateful for all of your patience and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, with that, we will move to the question and answer portion of tonight. And so I have a series of questions prepared for you. And I'm going to bounce around in terms of who I asked to answer the questions. So I'll be doing it roll call style just to keep track of myself because there's so many candidates. So first question of the evening. Serving on the school board is a collaborative team effort to bring about the best educational opportunities for our students. Each member serves on subcommittees and works with administrative staff. Board meeting agendas are designed to do the business of the board and bring about consensus to achieve the best possible outcomes. What experience have you had working in small committees or teams to be an effective board member? And so I will ask Jessica Fuller to begin.
Thank you. Am I muted? There we go. Sorry. In recent years, I was actually on the WARE PTO board in 2017 through 2019 until I had to step down due to one of my child's medical issues. I just did not have the time to make that commitment to them anymore. So I was able to work with them, and WARE PTO is who puts on most of the WARE schools fundraisers and extracurriculars, dances and such. So I was able to work as a team with them and help create those opportunities for our kiddos. That was my most recent.
Okay, thank you. Daniel.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Awesome. So it was about working. If you could restate the question real quick.
I can, of course.
Okay, thanks.
Serving on the school board is a collaborative team effort to bring about the best educational opportunities for our students. Each member serves on subcommittees and works with administrative staff. Board meeting agendas are designed to do the business of the board and bring about consensus to achieve the best possible outcomes. What experience have you had working in small committees or teams to be an effective board member?
Yes, I've had years of experience from working through internships, then working later on in teaching with the 6 years of building the program. We had curriculum committees. We had lots and lots of meetings. There was even things down to I used grant writing as a way to fund my program. There was a lot of checks and balances that had to happen since I started the program myself. And it was through a group called Workforce Education, and we would have monthly accountability charts and feedback sessions basically to go through, and we were all working together on the same page. It was between the business classes. I was teaching tech ed, and we had a medical career academy. And so we were basically going through, and we would always be collaborating. You may feel like sometimes you're on your own island, but as far as working together, when everybody works together, things just happen a lot more smoothly. And as far as the experience goes, many hours of just working together, building the program. And so, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Holly.
Yeah, so as part of my professional career, I was able to get into the adult learning side of things. So part of that was getting the opportunity to create curriculum that would be kind of put out to everybody that worked within the company that I worked for. I had the pleasure of being able to be a project manager for a project for a course that was created specifically for business analysis for general managers that had 5+ years experience in the company that I worked for. And so that allowed me to work within a small group where I was managing that group, but also having to be the person that could kind of make it so if somebody was having an issue, or if anybody was disagreeing, where I'd have to come in as that diplomatic person to see it through and make sure that we could compromise and get on the same page. And at the end of the day, that project took about a year of my time, and we were able to get it done on time, on budget, and gave me a lot of experience to be able to work in a group and kind of put get everybody on the same page. And I think that's important within the school board, is to be able to collaborate. And, not everybody is going to agree all the time. In fact, it's probably a good thing for that to be the case. But at the end of the day, everybody can put their issues aside and compromise and work together to reach that goal.
Okay, thank you. Danielle. And please let me know if you'd like me to restate the question.
Okay. I think I recall it. It's about working as a team and committees. So in a role with a nonprofit I worked for, we had a committee that researched and developed a training program, and it moved from that as a team and kind of needed a leader to enact that training. And that ended up being me. I was also a manager of retail, and I always worked with my employees. I always said, we work together. I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do, and we'll get these goals done. I'm very much a list person, and I would help them with that. And then I think across the board in my experience, I am really good at taking the big picture and breaking it down into what needs to be done and addressed, so that it all makes sense in the end and everything gets addressed.
Thank you. Sarah?
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. I think the second title of a teacher is committee member. I've worked on a team all 12 years that I've taught. Some of them were content teams, and other, right now I'm on a cross-curricular team where we work together on a daily basis to support students, communicate with parents. And I think this is one of the things that would really benefit as a candidate for school board, is that I have a lot of experience working with all the stakeholders that I will be continuing to work with as school board member, just with a different hat on. So, I know how to communicate with parents and students and the teachers, administration, school board members at all levels, and trying to build community, like I said, and respecting all the voices. I had the wonderful opportunity to be trained in critical friends groups, which is a silly name for using protocols to build consensus and create norms among groups of diverse stakeholders. And I think it's been one of the most helpful things in my teaching career to be able to implement strategies to make meetings efficient, and to give everybody an opportunity to speak and have their voices heard. And so I think I'll be, as a school board member, I'll continue to do a lot of what I do every day at school. And I just want to say I'd be happy to work with any of you. I think a lot of you saw the same thing last year on the ballot, where there wasn't even.
Sarah, I just want to let you know you have 10 seconds.
Okay, I just would be happy to work with any of you, and I'm so excited.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you have 2 minutes.
Hi there. I currently serve on the executive board for NHPBS, as well as their finance and investment committees. along with the Finance Committee for the Conservation for New Hampshire Forests, as well as a U.S. ambassador for the Transparency Task Force, which is a nonprofit, all nonprofit organizations, but this one particularly in London, where we look to ensure transparency across the global financial system to ensure that while people's money's put away for retirement, that while people are looking away and doing whatever it is that people do to earn money, that their money's safe within the financial system, and that they're not getting ripped off by brokers and investment banks and getting charged with excessive fees. And so a lot of that role really requires that we listen and work together and be able to share ideas and thoughts and perspectives with the highest level of respect and honor the level of risks that are involved with things that we don't control when it comes to the economic climate that we may be in, perhaps the business cycle that we're in. And when it comes to this particular position, I hope to apply the experience that I've gained over the past 15 years to this particular role.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Thank you. In my work, like I mentioned, I'm in a small law firm where we have 5 people on staff. And so any problem that we have, a case, we work on collaboratively. Anywhere from 2 to 4 people work together to solve the problem that the client brings to us. And sometimes tasks are delegated to us, and sometimes we volunteer based on what interests us in particular, which I understand is something similar that happens with the committees that the school board members are part of. Also, I have been helping out for the past year to produce the Where in the World newsletter. I'm part of a staff of 6 people. We are from different backgrounds. Some of us didn't even know each other until we started working together to make this happen. We range in ages from 20s to 80s, and we have different ideas on different issues. Sometimes topics come up and we have problems to solve, but we work together. We all state our opinions, and we always go with what the majority says, even if we initially have a different idea. It's always about what's the best thing for the paper. So I think that's what would be similar on the school board. Maybe you have a certain idea starting out, you hear everybody out, you think about it, you say, where can we come together? Where can we work together to have the best result? So I like doing that. I like working as a team. I like getting along with other people and making things happen together. I think that's the best for the community too. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Allison.
Hi. As far as my managerial experience, I'm sure you all know Market Basket and the way that it works. But I was responsible for one singular department within the entire store. Same thing as Danielle said, I worked side by side by all of my employees day in and day out. We had the same job, even though technically I was in charge. But yeah, I mean, a part of that is, you know, knowing the strengths and the weaknesses of the people that work with and for you. It appears though everyone who is a candidate has a lot of things to bring to the table, a lot of experiences that would help out. I mean, just pulling from different experiences and different knowledges and having a diverse group of people who can respectfully have a conversation and make conscious decisions about what is best for everybody, not just what is best for them, in my opinion, is how teams work and how the board should function as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Oof, that was question 1. So question 2. Critical race theory has been gaining a foothold in public school systems across the nation. Do you know what this theory is, and do you think that it should be incorporated into the curriculum of the Ware School District? And so to begin, I'm going to call on, let's see here, Daniel. Daniel, if you could lead us off.
Hi, yes, I am familiar with critical race theory, and I believe that it should not be something that we teach in our school system. If you could restate just the last part of the question that you wanted me to answer about that.
Of course. Do you think that it should be incorporated into the curriculum of the Ware School District? I believe you answered it, Daniel.
I believe I did. I don't believe it should be incorporated into the Ware school curriculum.
Okay. And so next would be Holly.
Yeah, so to be honest, critical race theory is something that I'm just starting to hear about. The first opinion that I have read about it was against it. And I can understand the reasons why. For me, I grew up in an extremely diverse area, and it was my biggest reservation about moving to New Hampshire and moving to Ware is that my kids will not have the same experience that I did growing up, where I was able to meet a lot of people from a lot of different places, and that was something that was part of my life on a daily basis. And I can understand the reasonings for wanting to teach that within the schools, to have some understanding and, to know what other people and what they're going through. I am not personally sure if that is the correct way to do it. I think sometimes if you force things into a curriculum, it may have unintended consequences. And unfortunately, I just don't know what those are. So I'm sorry, it's kind of a roundabout way to say that I don't necessarily have an opinion. I do think learning about other cultures is extremely important, but for that in particular, I do not have an opinion at this time.
Thank you. Alyssa.
As I understand it, critical race theory is teaching that the system is inherently racist. And I don't think that we need to teach that to our children. I think our children should be given the opportunity to observe the world themselves and take it for what they see, what they learn. I don't think we should teach them that the system is against them in any way, or that they're a part of a system that's against others. I think they should have their minds open and ready to make their own decisions as they grow.
Okay, thank you. Allison?
Is actually something I'm not familiar with. So I kind of can't really have an opinion because I don't know anything about it. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Jessica? And please let me know if you'd like me to restate the question, because we've been, I think, 4 people in since I said it.
If you'd like, go right ahead. You can restate it.
Okay. So the question is, critical race theory has been gaining a foothold in public school systems across the nation. Do you know what this theory is, and do you think it should be incorporated into the curriculum of the Ware School District?
So I'm vaguely familiar with it. I actually remember learning about it in college myself, but not in a positive light. So I definitely, from what I know of it, there's already a significant push of a racial divide in our entire country. There's no reason for our children to be learning that. And it's more geared towards racial laws and the stigmatisms around them. And I feel that our K through 12 age group is not the proper age group to have those discussions or teachings. I believe that once a child is of college age and an adult and can make those own decisions for themselves, then it is available to them already. And they can make those decisions to take those classes and learn more about it when they're an adult.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, we're like literally dealing with I think the greatest civil unrest and social divide that we've experienced since the 50s. So when it comes to critical race theory, I'm an academic. So I did order the book. Kimberly Crenshaw, who created the theory, she's coined by creating the theory, so intersectionality. And so when it comes to race and ethnicity and culture, and so my parents are immigrants to this country, where race isn't really even discussed, but we come from the Caribbean, where there was a larger number of slaves that actually arrived to the Caribbean above what arrived to the United States. And so there's just a lack of factual understanding about ethnicity and culture and colonization and how that occurs. And so I've, as an academic and trying to say, an economist, we study resources within society, and then as looking at spatial inference, how much space do we take up as individuals, and knowing that we're all made up of different backgrounds and melanin levels. And if there's a child that perhaps feels uncomfortable because they're Black or Spanish, I would want them to feel comfortable saying that they're not comfortable. And so I feel that like the only way to do that is just to be open to different perspectives and trying to share and learn as much as possible about one another. And so it's something that I, as myself being an academic, I'm just trying to learn and understand, what space I take up and my family takes up, and how we can make sure that it at least is putting off light in a way that we are supporting our communities as much as possible. So with critical race theory, I've tried to read and ask as many questions and be a resource, and I'm going to continue to do that. And so as a person of color, I think it'd be difficult to say that I don't know, that I would feel that always that I've been comfortable in majority white spaces, and that hasn't been true. But what has been true is that I've had teachers that have made me feel supported and safe, where I can share my thoughts and experiences that have allowed for me to thrive and have allowed for me to really capitalize on the education system that we have, which includes, public education. And again, I have a master's in applied economics, and I own my own investment firm, and I'm a mom and a wife and community member and happy taxpayer. So I think that there's just, there's ways we can work together.
Thank you. I was just about to say 2 seconds, but thank you. Let's see here. Sarah.
Yeah, I think I'm always, from a teacher's perspective, a little bit nervous when we say we're going to put this into the curriculum, which I feel like is really packed. And I think that it is a really important discussion for people to have. And I think it's important for our schools to teach discourse and tolerance. And as Elizabeth said, to make students feel comfortable and part of the community, no matter their background. But I'm not sure the way we get at that is by putting more stuff in the curriculum. I think that's more of the way that we support our educators and train them, and the way we support our students, and the way we act as role models in the community. And so I think that is the way we go about the change that needs to happen, and not necessarily through like a canned curriculum or another thing that the students are doing and that the teachers feel that they have to, but more building community and really living out the ideas of making people feel welcome and involved and heard and seen.
Thank you. And last but not least, Danielle, you have your 2 minutes.
All right, I'm actually not familiar with the critical race theory or how it's fitting into curriculum. And now I actually really want to find out how they're fitting it into other curriculums. But so I don't know nearly enough to have an opinion at this point, though.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on to question 3. This year marks the 1-year anniversary of the first reported case of COVID-19 in New Hampshire. What do you see as the next steps in supporting the town, the employees, and the student body through the pandemic? And we will begin with Holly.
Oh boy, I was wondering if this question was going to come to me first. So So my opinion, and one of my biggest reasons for running, is due to the fact that I disagree with a lot of how things have kind of transpired and been handled for our student populations. I think that it's been really hard for a lot of kids, remote learning. I think hybrid learning at the middle school, and although this doesn't concern high school, at the high school level, has been extremely difficult on a lot of kids, extremely difficult on a lot of parents. A lot of parents have lost income. A lot of people have had to switch things around on the fly every single day when all of a sudden the school's going remote. I think that a lot of the restrictions within the schools are detrimental to the mental health of our students. I don't think it's fair for kids to be wearing masks all day in school when, unless you are in a medical field or working with the public and different public every day, that most of us as adults are not wearing them at our jobs more than we have to. And I don't think that that's been entirely fair to the students. I think that we definitely overreached a lot, and we put a lot on the kids and a lot on the parents with all of this. I understand that this is something unprecedented that we've never dealt with before, but I do think that when school started this year, there were guidelines that were put into place by the state especially, and a lot of the restrictions that the school put forward were very heavy-handed. I mean, even the guidelines don't require full masking for kids, and there are schools that aren't doing it. And I just know for my own experience with my own second grader, you know, we kept her homeschooled for a good portion of this year because she's a very spirited child and wants nothing more than to hug her friends.
Holly, I just want to give you a warning of 10 seconds.
Okay. And it was hard for us to make that decision. So I know that this has affected a lot of people, but like I said, a big motivation for me running is to get these kids back to normal and help to do that as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Next would be Alyssa.
Hi, I think that our school, Center Woods, is doing a really good job of keeping kids in school throughout the pandemic. I'm very happy with how much my kids have been able to go to actual physical school. And school has done a really good job of sticking to the CDC guidelines. So I would like to see the other schools as well, the middle school and high school kids, be able to get back to school, but following those CDC guidelines for a safe return to school, continuing like with masks and distancing and doing, you know, the screening apps. But also as the teachers are able to get their vaccinations, hopefully we will in the future have a more normal school day. But I think just getting the kids back in school should be the priority at this time.
Thank you, Alyssa. Allison, and I can repeat the question if anyone needs me to, so please let me know.
Could you repeat it one more time, please?
Of course. So this week marks the 1-year anniversary of the first reported COVID-19 case in New Hampshire. What do you see as next steps in supporting the town, the school employees, and the student body through the pandemic?
My experience with this is that I believe that the guidelines handed down by the state that all of the schools had to deal with and situate, that I think this town did an exceptional job of doing that. I know as the parent of a kindergartner who was stepping into the school for the very first time in his life, that we were extremely nervous about the masks and the health screenings and all of those things that he has had zero experience with, on top of having zero experience with school at all. And he is doing amazingly well. He puts his mask on every day. He doesn't even think about it anymore. Kids adapt, kids adjust. As I mentioned, I work for Market Basket, so does my husband. So we all experienced this pandemic from a very different perspective as most people. We have been wearing a mask 40 to 50 hours a week since June, okay? And you just adjust and you move on. The light is at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, as the teachers get vaccinated, here's hoping for more time in the building in the fall. But I mean, the guidelines set in place, I mean, the cleaning that needs to be done and the distances that needs to be made, I think the schools have done an exceptional job. And then reacting when something does happen, they don't hesitate to take the appropriate steps. And until those guidelines and restrictions are lifted, you have to work with what you have as best as you can. And I think it's been a phenomenal year in that regards. So hopefully the guidelines will lift and we can all go back to school a little bit more in the fall. But I mean, it was my understanding that those kids are wearing masks all day because there was people in this town who were concerned and wanted them to be, not because the school board decided that was the way it was going to be, that people had expressed concern with their children sitting that close to another child, not having a mask on all day
Allison,
long.
I just want to give you, you have 5 seconds left.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle.
Can you repeat the question for me, please? Just want to make sure I direct my answer the right way.
Of course. This week marks the 1-year anniversary where the first COVID-19 case reported in New Hampshire. What do you see as next steps for supporting the town, the school employees, and the school body through the pandemic?
Okay. In the school board meetings last summer, I think what stood with me a little bit was when the teachers spoke, a representative for the teachers, and they talked about their comfort level and what guidelines they were looking for and would feel supported by. And I hopefully things will change back to whatever normal will be. And as they do, I would hope we continue to listen to our teachers. And from there, kids are adjusted now. They're dealing with it. So I think, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But anyhow, listening to our teachers and doing our best to support them, which supports our students and supports everybody being back in school.
Thank you. Sarah, your 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that this pandemic really brought out the importance of compromise and being able to meet people halfway. I completely understand the parents that needed to work. I had a toddler on my lap while I was teaching remote school in March and helping students, and I get that difficulty firsthand, and I also understand the teacher concern. And I think that this district did a great job of saying, okay, if we want kids in school, if we want teachers to make that, to take that risk, then we need to be able to do things to mitigate their concerns. And I think this district and districts over the state did as great of a job as they could have in this situation. And I think we're all learning a lot now. And as we bring students back and we're realizing that, one of the easiest things we can do is to say wear masks. If we want to bring kids into the building and we want them to start learning in person and we don't want them to have all that screen time, that there are some things we have to compromise on. And I think, that is at the heart of this entire year, is figuring out what compromises we have to make to be able to do what's best by everybody. And I am excited to see, the district I work in is starting to bring middle school students back 4 days a week, and it's lovely to see their faces. But they're doing it, with teachers still feeling, okay, we have the space to do that. We have the ventilation to do that. They will be wearing masks. And so I think compromise is the important thing as we move forward.
Thank you. I was just about to come on to tell you that you were at the end. Elizabeth, you have your 2 minutes.
I mean, yeah, it's incredible to think that we've lost like over 500,000 Americans to this pandemic, and it's still raging. You know, we need to just get our teachers vaccinated and our kids back in school. I get it. My kid's been remote this entire time in kindergarten, and it's been ridiculous. Literally insane. I literally, you know, we've had, but to set up the supports to really ensure that she's able to thrive. And I have to say that the teachers are incredible, you know, doing home visits to just drop off goodie bags that aren't asked of them, just to make, you know, our kids feel included and thought of. And, you know, this is all outside the scope of things and discomfort and time where it's like we all want to be back to doing all those things and have our kids dropped off. And I want my kid in preschool and my daughter in kindergarten, and I want to just be, you know, back to how it is. And it's not, and it's a health crisis, and we need to work together and compromise and do what we need to do so we can just get through this and just get back to how things were, or whatever that new normal looks like. But for me, it's about, you know, looking at the science and the Americans that are still dying and in the hospital. And my best friend who works at the ER at the Elliott and is constantly hooking people up to ventilators and not, you know, and then trying to find time in the mountain to hike and doing it again. So I don't, you know, it's still happening. It's still going on. So my thought is just we need to work together to get through this.
Thank you. Jessica.
I definitely, you know, agree with most of everything that's been said. I think it's definitely time to actually get back to normal. I absolutely loathe the expression, the new normal. This is not normal, nor will it ever be. And our children are really struggling here. I think we did the best with what we had, but it has been a year. It is sufficient time to be able to revisit certain things within those guidelines. We have overstepped the CDC guidelines. We have gone far and beyond. We've gone far and beyond our governor's orders as well. And one of the biggest things that bothers me with our guidelines is we have no exceptions. We do not support anybody, children nor staff, with a disability or a choice. Nobody has a choice whether to wear a mask or to be in person. It affects my family personally. My son is deaf. He does not sign. He's currently learning sign language, but not being able to read somebody's lips or have somebody read his lips because he has a speech impediment is very difficult. He struggles with communication. So remote learning doesn't work very well for him as well. I'm definitely on board with taking a step back from some of these restrictions that we have put on our kids and our teachers. I know a lot of our teachers are struggling with it as well. And it's time to just stop being so scared all the time. Be safe and let people have their own choices, not mandate a choice for them.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And last but not least, Daniel.
Thank you for this important question. I realize that there's strong opinions on both sides of the issue. It's important to provide as much support to our students and town employees by making well-informed decisions without overreach. That's a really important part there. And I believe it's very important for schools to be open. The data is there. Even our governor, Sununu, is now saying, you know, we need to get students back in school. He actually just had to come out and mandate 2 days mandatory because some school systems didn't want to open at all. I have deep respect for the school administration and all the teachers and parents have done to transition to remote learning. I mean, it was definitely quite different from anything that anybody's had to deal with in the past. But from what we've learned up to this point, keeping students out is doing them a disservice. And the downsides of remote learning far outweigh any of the obstacles that we might face with schools being open. I think students and teachers, who want to wear masks should be able to. But as an end goal, hopefully we can get to a place where our students and teachers will be able to attend school regularly and normally soon and without any mandates.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so deep breath and we'll move on to our next question. This one's lengthy, so you're going to have to bear with me, and probably I would have to have it asked 3 times, but bear with me. Over the last 25 years, the cost per pupil in the Ware School District has risen over 300%. At the same time, the statewide assessment scores have been declining. Ware School District has been performing below the state average in all subjects tested across all grade levels except 4th grade math. The student to teacher ratio at both schools is in the lower ratios of schools in the state. More services are being offered at both the school level and the SAU level. A nationwide source ranks Ware Elementary School 170th out of 231 statewide, Ware Middle School 106 out of 128 statewide. What do you believe is the reason for the test scores? Is it that Ware does not spend enough money on education? Is it the curriculum or some other reason? And then additionally, so answering that question, and then the second part of the question is, what is the responsibility of the SAU and school board in addressing this concern? Whew. So I will begin with, let's see, Sarah.
Boy, this is a big one to start with. So I feel Ware is not the only town that's grappling with this. And I think that students are a lot more than their test scores. I see this in the classroom. And I think it's unfortunate that the direction that this country went in is to use for-profit companies to assess how our students are doing. It just seems just counterintuitive. I think it's important to have accountability for teachers, but as someone that's taught in different school districts for 12 years, the test scores don't seem to do much other than to make towns feel upset about their scores if they're not where they want them to be. I have worked in a town where their test scores are higher than the state average. And I can tell you that I don't see much difference in curriculum. What I do see a difference in is teacher retainment, keeping people in a district, keeping consistency. And that's not necessarily something that can be purchased, although compensating teachers is important. If we're going to focus on test scores as the measurement, we have to look at the reasons why students aren't performing. And I think those reasons are consistency in curriculum, teachers feeling comfortable at the elementary school level teaching mathematics, training and supporting them in developing their skills and feeling comfortable.
10-second warning, Sarah.
Oh, this was a really big question.
No.
But yeah, I think it's a sad thing to measure students by their test scores at the end of the day.
Thank you. Elizabeth, and I can repeat the question if you'd like me to.
No, I think I'm good. I do agree with Sarah. I just don't think that the test scores are really evident of a child's success in society at all. I'm a really big proponent of like supporting technical development and skills that help, that can be practical and used, and things like welding and woodworking and financial literacy and understanding how money works, like economics. And when it comes to the money being spent per pupil at 300%, I'm a really big stickler on turnover rates. If we're spending a ton of money training a bunch of new teachers because we can't keep them, as Sarah stated, in the district, then, we got to think about like what that does to our kids. I think that it's really important to, I always remembered my brothers and I and sister, I'm the youngest of four, sharing like, oh, did you have so-and-so, in 5th grade in the math class, like having that, like you cannot, she's terrible or he's great. And just having that relationship and long-term relationship through siblings, I think is what builds that strength. And to me, I don't think that the turnover rate was published in the budget, but I do know that, as Dr. Coe had shared, that teachers are paid, I believe it's 10,000 below the average with towns close by. So it's something that I'm really interested in, and I hope that I can contribute the knowledge I have in finance to identifying what is that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica.
All right. So I definitely agree with everything that Sarah said. And it was something that was reiterated over and over again when I was in school. And I know I've heard it with my kids now, with children are not their test scores. You are not your test score. And I think we've changed our curriculum, or at least the way that our teachers are teaching our curriculum, to not teach to test. We are teaching our children to learn and grasp the content that is being taught to them. We are not teaching them to take a standardized test, because, honestly, I feel we need to just get rid of them. I feel that they are an awful, awful measurement for our children. And it doesn't take into account special needs children or children who didn't start kindergarten at 5 years old, or students that had to stay back a year or go up a year, those kind of things. It really doesn't take those into account, and everybody learns differently. I feel that the responsibility, the school board and the SAU, I'm not sure if we have the reach to do away with any of those, or if they're mandated out of our reach, but maybe trying to put a bug in those people's ears who have the ability to remove those testings, or stop using those test scores as budget keepers. We definitely should do that. Our students nor our teachers should be evaluated by a standard test.
Thank you. Allison.
I would say I have to agree with everybody else that test scores don't show you the whole picture. Not everybody tests well. Everybody learns in a different manner. My personal opinion is that experience and retaining good quality teachers would be the most benefit to the students in this community. Even from just a manager experience, the people who are with you the longest are the ones who help you at the absolute most, train the people that come in. And when you continually turn that rate of people over, everything suffers. So, I feel that if there was a better way to help the teachers to stay, experienced teachers to stay, there's more for younger teachers to learn from, and that the whole place becomes better because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel.
Thank you. As somebody who has experienced being evaluated by the success of my student test scores, I've somewhat understood the importance of this question. The answer is certainly multifaceted on it. Equality, A quality education is one that maximizes the students' intellectual potential and the ability to function and excel in society. Tests, generally standardized testing, I've never been a fan as far as them measuring. You know, some students do really well on written tests. Some students, they know the information, they're just not good at putting it down. So I think that the way that standardized tests are could be much better. So judging where based off of one set of rules per se is kind of what you have there when you're showing standardized test scores and ratings. That's just something for people to understand as far as, you know, how things work in the system. You know, key structural elements to the students' intellectual potential and ability to function and excel in society, maximizing that would be, you know, making sure we have a strong core curriculum, which is something I will definitely be looking into as a board member. Electives that provide additional life skills are very important. I always advocated for my program because I obviously built it from the ground up, but I also have a background in music, and advocating for electives and, you know, skill programs in the school is something that I'm passionate about.
20 seconds.
Teachers, yep. Teachers that are well supported with abundant access to further professional development is also key. The school board member has the ability to influence how the school board sets the education policy, establishes a school district budget, and negotiates contracts. All that needs to be kept in the forefront of our mind when making these decisions.
Thank you. Alyssa.
I think the poor test scores are perhaps a symptom of something, but I can't say exactly what. I do know that the test scores alone do not give a full picture. I've had parent-teacher conferences with my kids' teachers, and they have told me, oh, don't worry about these test scores because they actually have all the concepts down and they're doing great. So even the teachers recognize that the test scores aren't giving us a complete picture. But if we're constantly ranking at the bottom, when we look at the schools in the state, there has to be something going on. And yeah, like the others have commented, we do have low teacher salaries. So I would like to look at that, but also see what programs are available so that maybe the areas where the kids seem to need help, as shown on their test scores, maybe we could offer a different type of program that could help them improve in those areas in another way. I was also thinking part of the problem with the testing is that they were using the Chromebooks, and some of the kids weren't even used to the programs on the Chromebooks. Now they're using Chromebooks all the time with the remote learning. So maybe that will even help the testing process because they're more familiar with how it's done. So there is that possibility. There could be something good out of all of this remote stuff. The kids are becoming more familiar with the technology that the testing is done on. Could help.
Thank you. Danielle.
All right, can you repeat the first part of the question? I have the what's the responsibility of the school and the SAU in addressing this?
Okay. Over the last 25 years, the cost per pupil in the Ware School District has risen over 300%. At the same time, the statewide assessment scores have been declining. Ware School District has been performing below the state average in all subjects tested across all grade levels except for fourth grade math. The student to teacher ratio at both schools is in the lower ratios of schools in the state. More services are being offered at both the school level and the SAU level. A nationwide source ranks Ware Elementary School 170 out of 231 statewide, and Ware Middle School 106 out of 128 statewide. What do you believe is the reason for the test scores? Is it Ware doesn't spend enough money on education? Is it the curriculum or some other reason? And what are the responsibilities of the SAU and school board in addressing this issue?
Right, and I think everyone else has addressed this, that test scores are not everything. Not every kid can test well. As far as the cost per pupil increase, it could be to get the technology so that they can test or to have more access, or maybe those kids who are testing low. I'd be interested to see if that's where some of that extra cost is going. As far as the responsibility of the school board and the SAU, there are districts that they pay their teachers better, but their cost per pupil is less. So I'm wondering, is there a way we can collaborate with other districts and find out what types of things they do or how they use their resources? And especially if it's a district that has better test scores, if that's what we're going on. I will also say I'm very interested. I found not only with the state assessment results, but only in one grade. I want to say it's 4th, maybe 5th. They have a growth measurement of how much those kids progress. And I really would like to know how they measure that. And to see, I'd rather see improvement there than in real tests or in test scores.
Thank you, Danielle. And last but not least, Holly.
Yeah, so I think that, there's a lot of rising costs, and I think that there's a lot of that in the last 25 years is just attributed to a lot of the normal things that have gone up in cost over the years. I also know that moving to Ware, I didn't look at the school district and go, okay, we're moving to Ware because of the school district. However, I've never felt as a parent that my children have suffered as far as curriculum goes. I think that, if you put it against my own experience as a student in school, that they're getting just as good of an education. I do think that there are a lot of enrichment activities that the school doesn't provide, and for financial reasons, because of the makeup of our town, that a lot of those things happen. For example, in middle school, starting in middle school, we had a very robust extracurricular activity program, which included 2 after-school buses and a sports bus every day. But my parents were paying $6,000 a year in property taxes for less than a quarter acre. So there's a lot to be said for what we are able to do with the amount of funding that we have. I think that this next coming year is going to be even more difficult, because if the adequacy rates stay the same, we're looking at losing quite a bit of funding in that regard. And it's going to be really hard just to keep up with the normal stuff on a regular basis. But I think, to everybody else's point, the test scores don't really say the full picture. But I do think as a board and as a community, that there are a lot of different things that we can look at to make our school district shine a lot more than it is. Just because our test scores are low, everybody else is taking these tests. So yes, it's one thing to say, students don't test well, but are we really saying that everybody in Ware tests poorly? I really don't think that that's the case. I think that there's definitely a lot of improvements that can be made and should be made. But I also do understand that within the constraints, I think that we do a really good job at making the curriculum great. But I think we just have to be a lot more creative in how we figure it out. And I just don't know that we kind of seem to make excuses for a lot of things where it's like, oh, well, it's because of this, oh, it's because of that. And it's like, no, let's just figure it out and move forward and try and take the things that we know and do the best we can to move forward with the information that we have in front of us. And I think knowing that we rank poorly isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good jumping off point,
Shelley,
for us to make improvement and see what we can do to do that without completely exploding our budget.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. It has been stated that there's $2.2 million worth of funds found in the budget that could be reallocated. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budget? And do you support the teacher contract on the ballot? And so I will begin with Elizabeth.
So I manage portfolios and I rebalance money and reallocate money all the time. It's just part of the process of managing money. And so I think it's always important to reallocate money to make sure that it goes into the most the most productive area of the budget at the time to ensure that things just keep moving. So I think that it's always necessary to reallocate funds.
Okay, the next person would be Jessica. And I can repeat the question if you'd like.
Please, I didn't catch the last half of it because my thing
Sure.
cut out for a second.
Sure. It has been stated that there is $2.2 million worth of funds in the budget that could be reallocated. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budgets, and do you support the teacher contract on the ballot?
Yes, my favorite subject. Absolutely. That is one of my biggest things, reallocation. I think that our current budget, we can do a lot with. I don't think we should take anything out of it, but I also don't think that we need to add to it at this moment either. I think there is a lot of reallocation that can very easily be done. And I have actually looked a lot into it myself. As of right now, I don't think that we should do the new teacher contracts, only because they seem to be the only ones getting the raises, the increases, the extras. And it's more than the cost of living for those who are on a fixed income, or those of us who lost our jobs or lost our income over the last year, while watching others continue to get those increases no matter what. I think it's definitely something to look at again next year, when hopefully everything settles out a little bit more. But I definitely think we need to really take into account what the actual cost of living increase is for those who are on a fixed income, which is a good portion of our population in this town. And yeah.
Thank you. Daniel?
Yes. I think we need to look carefully at every budget line item and determine whether there's a more cost-effective way to achieve the objective here. Are we spending our money wisely and effectively? We absolutely need to look at if there's money to reallocate. Is $2 million is a lot of money. As a former teacher and a taxpayer, I believe it's important to look at the total compensation package of the teachers, not just the salary. I noticed some mentioned about the teacher salaries being lower than other towns. There's a lot of factors that go into that, which I won't get into right now, but definitely take a look at those. We also need to consider where's economic tax footprint. Every town is different, and even the surrounding towns. So comparing those things can make a big difference. I do believe that we do need to look into the entry level teacher salary levels, and teacher retainment is definitely an issue. We could also look carefully at our budget to see if we can allocate more for teachers from other areas. But right now, at this time, I believe the 2.3% is what it was that was presented is a little bit high for as comparative to the cost of living increase.
Thank you. Danielle?
All right, so whenever there's a savings and you can reallocate, I think it's smart to look at it. It's always smart to look at your budget and make sure, as others have said, you're using your money effectively. It's the same you would do on your personal level. As far as the teachers' contracts as it's proposed this year, I do support that. It's my understanding teachers could have negotiated their entire contracts, and all they're asking for is their step increase. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the cost of benefits is also going up for the teachers, which if you look at their entire compensation plan, that would balance out in the future for them. So.
Thank you, Danielle. Holly?
Could you repeat the first part of the question, please? Or
Sure.
this?
It has been stated that there is $2.2 million of funds found in the budget that could be reallocated. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budgets, and do you support the teacher contract?
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the budgets, after looking through everything and hearing the presentation at the deliberative session, you know, I kind of believe that the school board did a good job of finding a lot of areas to move things around this year, but somehow the budgets came up pretty much the same, really close to each other between the proposed and the default budget. So part of me thinks that it would almost be better to go with the default budget this year, because we're going to lose a lot of those areas that were cut if we go with the proposed budget, and then it's going to be really hard to find anywhere to save next year. But to that point as well, I think that after digging through budgets and asking questions, it's very interesting to see that a lot of what is on paper isn't what actually happens. And I know that that's how a budget works. You kind of budget for what you think it's going to be, and you get close to it. But it just seems like with a lot of things, we're going back to years past to make up for things this year. So I think we just need to get to the point where we get as close as we can. As far as the teacher contracts go, with the increase in benefits, I would never want to see anybody have to take a decrease in pay. And I think if we do that, we're going to create a very worse situation than we had this year with teachers leaving, where, you know, why would you want to stay somewhere that pays you less the next year? So I think that it's a hard pill to swallow, but that we should go with the contract this year for the teachers. It's going to make me vote differently on a lot of the town articles, because there's a lot of increases that are going to happen if we do that, but I think it's necessary. I'm probably close. Yeah, I figured I was close to time. I had more to say, but that's that for that.
Thank you, Holly.
Yep.
Allison.
I'm gonna have to agree with what a lot of other people said. Anytime you can look at a budget, reassess it, move some things around, you know, eliminate, add, that's, you know, we all do that in our personal lives as well as our professional lives. I don't know, I didn't go through it with a fine tooth comb, and I don't know if there's $2 million out there that could be relocated, but the more people who look at it, the more eyes you see it, the more things that you could find as you look into it every year and reassess it. As far as the teacher contracts go, I am all for the teacher contracts. They asked for practically nothing. They asked just for the step increases that they've earned through their profession, and I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't have that. They also have other increases in life, like their benefits, just like everyone else gets. And if you don't give them the step increases, yeah, they're going to make less money and they're not going to want to stay. And it only amplifies our problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, I think that, you know, the first 3 or 4 questions you asked, it's really easy for everybody to agree on those points and to say, you know, this is what we want for our children, but this is the question where we get that done, right? Like approving a teacher contract and showing those teachers in the very most basic way that as a town, we support you and we appreciate you, is where you get those other things accomplished. And I think that's super important. And if we can't stand behind the teachers, then I can guarantee you nothing is going to happen with test scores. We need to show teacher support. And if that means we have to reallocate some money and figure out where that's going to come from so that they can, you know, get the step increase that, like you said, Allison, that they professionally have earned, then, you know, I think we're just going to keep going backwards. And I think it's important to be creative and to look for other opportunities, like grants and things that can fill spaces in a budget, that are important, but maybe do not need to be funded by the town. But as far as the teacher contract, I 100% think that we need to get behind that and say, we appreciate you educating my children.
Thank you. And Alyssa.
I went to the school deliberative session and I looked at all the handouts, and I don't know about reallocating the $2 million. I don't have any ideas on that at this time. I would need to spend a lot more time going over things to give a good answer about that, but I absolutely support the teacher contract. They've had a very difficult year, so many hoops to jump through, and so many personal challenges too, having to quarantine and having to stay home with their own sick children at times too. I can't imagine myself if I was having a difficult year at my job, and then instead of getting a raise, I was getting penalized because I had to pay more in my insurance. So I was taking home less money after having a hard year. It wouldn't make you feel very valuable as an employee. And I think our teachers really need to feel valuable because they do so much for our town. So I think we need to support them however we can.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to move on. I have a question in the chat, and the format for answering it is just answer it with a number. And we will run through our roll call and you'll give me that number. So the question is, how many school board meetings have you attended either personally or virtually in the last 2 years? And I'm going to start with Allison.
4.
Alyssa. You're on mute, Alyssa.
I think 8.
Okay. Holly.
I've been to 1. However, I've watched all of them after the fact and have read through all the meetings after the fact.
Okay. Daniel.
5.
Jessica.
This was in the last 2 years.
Yes.
I've only missed 4 of them. So over 10, I know that much.
Okay. Elizabeth.
3.
Sarah.
3.
Danielle.
6,
Okay.
at least.
So I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. And so at this time, we're going to pivot. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to make closing statements. So you each get 3 minutes, and I'm going to start with Daniel.
Oh, sorry, I had an issue there with the space. Thank you, everybody. It would be an honor to serve our community. I plan to work hard for our students, teachers, and the taxpayers alike. I want to do my part and bring my experience to help the town of Ware manage its school district. Ware currently has disproportionately low representation on the SAU board. This is something that should be changed to reflect Ware's share of the SAU costs, which could help the taxpayers. As a K-12 certified teacher, taxpayer, and business owner, I will look at and listen to everything from all sides so we can make informed decisions and provide a solid education for our students. Aside from the business management and financial aspect of my experience, what qualifies me is I have 6 years of hands-on in the classroom experience, during which time I built a technology ed program from the ground up in the Career Academy. Another attribute I can bring to the table is I have experience with writing grants. In the past, I self-funded my tech ed program with grants that I acquired. I think this experience can be helpful to the district going forward, and is also another great alternative to providing more for our students while lightening the load on the taxpayers. I understand the daily grind for teachers, the pressure administration faces on a daily basis, and the cost of running effective programs. But it's also imperative to evaluate programs' efficacy and performance can and should always be evaluated for it to be the most effective. I've seen the system work well in areas, and I know that like any other, there are always areas to improve. I'd like to help the Ware community in building and maintaining strong schools. And it's my goal to prioritize a quality education for our students at an affordable cost to the taxpayers, maximizing each tax dollar that is spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
Thank you. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to run for the school board. I think a lot of us were lit by the fire of a few different things. One, last year, seeing only one person on the ballot for 2 spots. I think that really lit a fire under a lot of people. And I also think that this year was unlike any other. And I do know that my motivation for running is to give more of a balance to a lot of those COVID restrictions that have happened this year. And I understand that that does kind of upset people to have somebody coming forth and saying that. But the truth is that I know a lot of kids want it. I know a lot of parents want it. And I know for myself, I'd like that as well. At the same time, though, because I say that, it does not mean I'm against teachers and what they are doing. I think that we need to fight hard for teachers. One thing I was going to bring up as part of my last question is that most districts in similar number of residents that I did a small analysis of, our school operating budgets are pretty much in line, but we are still paying our teachers anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000 on average less than those teachers. And I think that means that we need to figure out a way to reallocate because other districts are able to do it, and we should be able to do it as well. And I do think that my experience as a parent and my professional experience, and also my experience as kind of an outsider who's grown up in a completely different experience than the place I'm raising my children in, makes me a really good choice to be able to bring a different perspective to the board and bring some balance to it as well. So I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate everybody else that's running with me, and I wish everybody luck next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Hey, thanks. I'm running because I care a lot. That's it. I'm willing to do hard work. I'm willing to be part of a team. I want to do everything I can so that all of our kids get the best education possible. So thank you, and I hope that you'll consider voting for me.
Thank you. Allison?
Well, like most people said, I mean, last year when there was no names on the ballot for the 2 open positions on the school board, I guess it sparked a lot of people. I was really surprised to see that 10 people have put their names in to run this year. That was really shocking, but it's really, really great to see. I would just like to say, I'm willing to work really hard to help build this community up, help build up our schools, provide the best education for my child as well as everybody else's. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Jessica?
Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to do this. My motivation for running is I was a student here, grew up, did the student thing. Now I'm the homeowner and the taxpayer. I've witnessed the long divide in this town between the two. It's been a very long time since we've had that middle ground, happy middle ground between the schools in our town. And I would really like to help facilitate gaining that middle ground to support our schools, but also protect our taxpayers. Having 2 special needs kids, I've grown accustomed to hearing it's not in the budget. That was the bulk of me wanting to run, was I've done a lot of research into the budget, including the meeting just before this, speaking about the budgets and speaking about losing special education funding and where it goes and how that works. Another part of my motivation for running was, it was kind of a joke in a way, but I had quite a few people write me in last time, because it was just kind of a standing joke talking about it. And then I decided, let's make it a reality. I've spent months and months combing through our budgets and 95% of the schools in New Hampshire's budgets. And I feel that I can really put forth, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for now, lost train of thought there. I think I can help with fixing that and really bringing that middle ground between our schools and our taxpayers, and not having the argument or the flat no every year from our town.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm grateful to even be part of such an amazing community, and just beyond the opportunity of running for school board, just being a neighbor and continuing to support each other and our teachers and our kids, and being an advocate when it comes to kids that don't have the services, when it comes to disabilities, and escalating those needs beyond the town. And if that means that we have to look for grant funding and support to be able to maintain the budget to allow for our neighbors to remain in our communities because of the cost of living adjustments that do not allow for them to even be able to afford those basic essentials without having to consider like another job or even putting themselves out. We don't want that. So my thought is I can apply, whatever knowledge I've gained thus far and continue to just focus on the numbers to say, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? Do we need to look at other sources to maintain our community and grow it and thrive and get the services that our kids need and community members? So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to even take space, and thank you.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yeah, just to speak to some of the things that other people were saying, I definitely, school board is something I've always been interested in, being an educator, but then I guess being kind of unaware that there was so little interest last year. I really wanted to take this opportunity, and now I feel so thankful that you guys are all running, and I really feel that this is such a good quality group of people that are ready and willing to support our students. I feel like I have a very specific skill set, having been and currently being a math teacher in a town very similar to ours, and for the last 12 years, and seeing things from a lot of angles, and being able to work on a team. So I really hope that everyone watching got a lot out of this. I know I certainly did, and I think everyone has great ideas. And I would be happy to work for the town to really support our students and our educators in the best way possible.
Thank you. Danielle.
All right, to echo what everyone else said, last year it was a really sad turnout to only see one person on the ballot for 2 empty seats. I tried to do the write-in thing, which is also difficult. And I was asked again, and I kind of did it because I had heard there wasn't any interest, but then I really started thinking about it, and I said, I think I have benefit to get, like I have some knowledge, and I would love to serve the community, be part of the goals, priorities, and improvements in our school system. And I believe my background with education and finances, and as a mom and as a community member, help. And it is great to see so many candidates. I have learned a lot, to echo Sarah. And so thank you all. If anyone has any other questions for me before Tuesday, I'm happy to answer them as well outside of here.
Okay, and I think that is the entire panel. And I have to tell you, in full transparency, I'm really shocked that I made it through the entire evening without either skipping somebody. I was petrified that I would mess somebody up here. So I want to say, on behalf of the community, because I get to do that sometimes, I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate the interest in serving the community. And I thank you for that as a member of the community and as a mom of kids who have attended these schools. It means a great deal to me. So we will next see each other hopefully Tuesday, March 9th at the voting place, which is at Ware Middle School. I'll be there. Feel free to say hello. And again, thank you for your time, attention, and commitment. And that concludes our candidates night for the school board for 2021. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone
Thank
too,
you,
you guys.
Eileen.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen.